Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. One of many, hopefully, that RCX will run over the coming months. We're excited to have a host of panels with us from RCX and from retail brands in the region, as well as global technology partners with us today. I'd like to welcome both our viewers across our different channels as well. And we hope we'll have a very interesting and insightful session today with you all. I'm your host, Rami Suez. I am the CEO of Gulf CX, which is part of Raya CX. We manage contact center operations and business process outsourcing, as well as a technology deployment of global partners in the Gulf and beyond. I'll be your host today, and I'll be taking you through this journey of humanizing technology to drive the future of retail. And I'll be talking to you about how retail is evolving in the MENA region and how technology is helping and AI to drive this retail landscape, both on digital as well as on physical stores as well. I'll be going through the agenda with you today. We'll be having a quick facts and a case study of how RCX deployed our humanized Ray to generate leads and support employees, both in our delivery centers and across the organization. It'll be followed by an interesting presentation by Adam on live person and conversational AI. And then Sam will be taking us through balancing automation and the human touch for superior CX, followed by Bernadette, who will be talking about a case study for Shalhoub Group. I believe ECTA has apologized due to an emergency, so we'll be extending some of the speakers to cover for ECTA's from Apparel Group. And then we'll have a Q&A session. And again, please utilize the channels that you are on watching this webinar to engage with us, ask any questions, and we'll use this time for the Q&A to answer any questions that you have. And then we'll have our final closing remarks. So just to give you a brief about our speakers, so Adam has worked in the messaging space for over 15 years. He has a wealth of knowledge on AI, messaging channels, and contact center solutions. He's an experienced consultant and currently advises Europe's largest brands and businesses on how to bring their conversational strategy to life as they strive to create curiously human experiences with conversational AI. Sam Hanna, our Chief Revenue Officer, is a dynamic professional with 20 years of success in BPO and customer experience leadership roles. He has hands-on experience in some of the most prominent BPO delivery markets as he establishes our delivery centers in Philippines, Morocco, Poland, the US, and in Egypt as well. I am Rami Suez. I've been in the BPO industry for over 20 years. I come from a Six Sigma lean background with a financial services background that helps me in managing the day-to-day business of a BPO operation, as well as how to innovate and build strategy across the organization to further advance our AI and innovation to build a unique BPO infrastructure. We also have Bernadette, the Chief Energy Officer, as her colleagues describe her, with 20 years of comprehensive experience and in-depth professional experience in customer experience, omnichannel, digital marketing, e-commerce, operational logistics, and retail as well. And I hope that with the panels here, we'll be able to get a lot of insights. Just for those who are not familiar with Raya CX, we are a global BPO. We're managing around 16 million transactions a month. We have around 10,000 seat capacity across our delivery centers with over 20 years of experience. We're one of the first BPOs that was established in the region. We are supporting 15 languages and 13 delivery sites. Of course, as we embed technology and human capital into our delivery sites, We're certified across different certifications, including COPC, since establishment, and this was what has helped us to maintain our quality and delivery service. We currently operate centers across Africa, the Gulf, Europe, USA, and most recently in South America and LATAM as well. With regards to languages, as very important, we want to be closer to our customers and we need to speak their language. We're supporting over 15 languages today as we deliver services to clients across the globe. So quick facts. I'd like to start with a quick question to get our audience engaged. If you can, please use this scan code. You can scan the code on your mobile and immediately join us in giving us your answer to our first question. So as of 2020, what percentage of brands have implemented or planned AI and VR strategies to create better customer experience? So I'll give our audience a few minutes to try to log in, be able to give us some answers, and we'll be able to see those answers immediately on your mobile as well as here on the screen. So again, what percentage of brands have implemented or planned AI and VR strategies to create better customer experience? And again, these are stats and polls from reliable sources, and we're keen in understanding and getting your feedback in terms of your opinion and view. What do you think that percentage stands on? Give you a few more minutes. Again, we all hear about AI, we speak about AI, but really, where have brands taken this forward? What did they start implementing? Is it at a strategy and a high level only, or is it really already implemented in place? And we can actually see that for some of those brands in some of the engagement that we do. Good, we're seeing on the top right hand the answers being answered. Give you a few more seconds. And we'll be able to see these results as well. So here we are. You should see on your mobile the answers, and 78% is the correct answer. So 78% of brands are implementing or planning to implement AI. And this is quite interesting to know. It's a relatively high number. And again, this is a global stat. I think in the region where we might be slightly less, but we are getting engaged by many brands that are looking and implementing AI. Great. We'll look at another stat next. So by 2035, it is believed that AI can increase profitability. What percentage? By what percentage can AI increase profitability for a brand? We talk about the bottom line, and we talk about, AI, automation, better customer experience, faster customer engagement, 24/7. How does this really help in the bottom line profitability for brands who are implementing AI? Think about all the aspects of what AI can do in terms of utilizing data, utilizing historical interactions, utilizing a full 360 view of your customer. Truly, AI should be able to help us in achieving better profitability. And what percentage do you think that is? So we have already some answers, and we'll give it a few more seconds to look at what percentage, and hopefully you'll find out it's a surprising number. We move on to answers, and we see a lot of you have gotten this correct, 38%, and this is really a staggering number in terms of profitability, what AI can create in terms of profitability. That gives us more incentive to really look and examine on how we can achieve AI to help us on our bottom lines. So without further ado, let's talk about really retailers and perhaps even other verticals must work towards implementing the balance between human and technology and utilizing AI in order to really help them grow and flourish. Today, the retail market in the Middle East and North Africa is $350 billion. E-commerce stands at around $21 billion with a 36% year-over-year growth. And the opportunity is massive. It is really important time to consider AI and how that will support your growth in e-commerce. We see many brands, retailers moving into digital transformation, and part of that digital transformation is the enablement of AI to help those brands grow and scale, because scalability is the key here. We can scale so much with the human element. However, AI helps us to achieve a much larger scale. And hopefully we'll see that today with some of the stats and through the panels of how some of those brands are enabling AI and achieving really scalability across the globe. So here's a case study of a very simple AI. We've developed a brand for Raya CX called Ray. Ray is available on our website, and he was built to seek helping three types of seekers: those that are requesting to understand more about our services and solutions. The second was the job seekers, as we hire hundreds and hundreds of employees every month. And then for investors, since Raya is a public company, those who are seeking public information about the company. And Ray was developed to help navigate those different seekers with the information that they need. And Ray was quickly able to help us achieve some interesting facts in terms of the results. Over 22% growth in terms of leads generated by Ray. And then we also had a very interesting customer satisfaction with Ray. So very importantly is when we develop a bot, it is also important to understand how satisfied are those seeking information with the bot that they've engaged with. And we found that 92% of the users that found and used Ray were actually very satisfied. And it's all about how do you develop this identity. We call it a digital identity, an identity that is human in some cases, and Ray for us is a positive identity. Ray is part of our brand identity, and we've utilized that quite well. In a very simple, short time, we were able to actually get some statistics and data around the engagement of Ray with those job seekers, and even helping employees. We're looking at developing Ray to help internal employees. Since we have tens of thousands of employees, we seek to also help and create an employee experience that is positive, which in turn will hopefully turn into a better customer experience in terms of engaging with our customers. And that's just a very simple case of how Ray is enabling us as a BPO to engage with our audience as well. Next, without further ado, I'd like to switch over to Adam, who'll be talking to us about humanizing technology. And Adam, I'll give you the speaker audience.
Thank you very much, Rami. So, hello everyone. What a pleasure it is to be here today speaking with you. For those who missed Rami's introduction a little bit earlier, and those who don't know me, my name is Adam Rathbone. I'm a consultant at LivePerson, and I have the amazing job of working with some of our biggest brands globally, helping them to deliver amazing experiences for their customers, and in doing so, helping them to hit their strategic goals. As for LivePerson, well, I could go on for hours, but as the slide shows, we help to create curiously human digital experiences for brands. And we were recently given the honor of the #1 AI company by Fast Company. So I recognize that customer engagement is more difficult now than it has ever been. Your customers are being bombarded with advertisements. Competitors are just a click away, and it's hard for any brand to break through and to truly connect. And then when those connections are actually made, especially in the digital space, there's often a lack of real relationship that makes those interactions feel cold and impersonal. So making those true one-to-one connections with customers is even harder when the back-end technologies that you're using across the customer journey don't work well together, and when you have limited resources in-house that are focused on other challenges. So a moment ago, I mentioned a term that you've probably never heard of, curiously human. And when I was thinking around today's events and the topic, it felt like this video was the perfect starting point to set that scene. Don't worry though, it's only a short video, and it will hopefully bring to life some of the topics that I will be covering in a little bit more detail during my talk. So hopefully that video has got you thinking. You know, I absolutely love that because it feels powerful. It feels powerful because the start of that, if you think about the start of that video, it's true, it rings true for a lot of the interactions that I, and hope, you know, I'm assuming you on the call today have had with brands. There's so much that we can discuss from that video alone. However, for today, it's just there really to set the scene and to get you all thinking in the right way. But what I would love you to all have as your key takeaways from today, and to start thinking about when you're having those conversations after this event internally and with stakeholders within your organizations, is to start thinking about what I always advise brands on. And this is 3 pillars that I think really underpin great customer journeys and deliver success. These are 3 important topics that I'm passionate about, and ones that I will go into more detail on. And the first is to simply be available. So what do we mean by the term be available? Well, if the last few years have shown us anything, it is that we need to ensure we're ready for our customers whenever and wherever they are. But I like to see being available like this. I see far too many brands confining themselves to the 4 walls of their websites. They feel like making the translation from offline to online is going to be enough. They're getting sales coming through their e-commerce platforms and in stores, and things are ticking along nicely. But is that actually being available? Are you truly meeting your customers where they are? Well, I say they're not. And I know this because my research shows that 74% of consumers actually prefer messaging versus calling into businesses. So when I say be available, this is what I mean. Your customers are increasingly adopting new conversation channels and at massive volumes. It's almost hard to comprehend 300 billion, yes, 300 billion messages being sent on just WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram alone every day. And that's not even including the other channels you can see on that slide. And even when they're not aware of being able to use messaging, we're seeing brands, not just in retail, but across other industries, implementing deflection technologies, such as IVR into WhatsApp, where I see 1 in 3 choose to move from that phone call and have that conversation in the channel that they want. And as these behaviors and preferences shift, consumers also don't want to be met where they're at. They actually expect it. They expect to be met where they're at. And they expect a consistent approach, no matter how you choose to interact with them. So channels are important, and they're easy to crack if you have the right technology partner. But that is just all it is, technology. And what about humans? So when brands first started about implementing or thinking about implementing chatbots, AI, automations, one of the notions going around and still going around is that they would replace the human agent. I still have this conversation today with brands. My response is always, no, 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 absolutely not. They're not here to replace humans. They're here to replace your staff. They're here to make them better. They're here to complement them. Chatbots are brilliant. They can be present 24/7. They can deal with a lot of monotonous, repetitive, simple tasks that humans shouldn't be required to do. And they allow humans to be able to do those more value-add tasks, whereas the chatbots and automations can fully contain some of those simple tasks. Such as the example you're seeing on your screen now, where a customer is asking the whereabouts of their order. Quite a common intent for retail organizations. But what automation cannot replace is that human touch, that deeper understanding of how the customer is feeling when they're engaging, or how to make the best out of the conversation that they're having, irrespective of whether that's a sales or customer service related conversation. Bots, automation, AI makes human life simpler. They make humans work more enjoyable. And bots are giving new options for careers, for contact center staff, store agents, style advisors. Why? Because they know your customers the best. They know how to interact, and they're at the front face of all of those interactions. They know how your customers talk, and more importantly, what they talk about. So they are the best people to look for that technology that allows this. And then once implemented, they're the best people to maintain and keep improving this technology. So I'm seeing brands using AI to better understand why customers are getting in touch, such as quickly identifying scenarios where customers are not happy, like an order was delivered, damaged, or the product is out of stock, etc. And automation is great at being able to identify those intents. And as I said, in some cases, fully contain them. But when you have unhappy customers, let's not further aggravate them. Let's get them over to those skilled, empathetic humans who can use that technology that messaging provides to try and turn around this unhappy customer. And even better, use this opportunity to regain that trust, that loyalty, and even try and save the sales or revenue where possible. But why is this? Well, as the slide says, computers don't fully understand the human language. Yes, AI has come a long way and continues to evolve, but we still need those humans there to help train those models, to help translate what people are thinking about and asking when they're interacting with those conversational AI automations. And this is why, in my opinion, humanizing needs humans. We need that human touch to not only answer the customer, but to do so well, and even with a personality. After all, us humans, we go beyond sentiment analysis to articulate why answers are good or not very good. And thinking about what I mentioned earlier, those new career paths that are being forged, I always tell brands that roles like conversational designers are just as important as the roles that are designing your websites. And since computers are unable to read between the lines and don't understand that sarcasm or subtext, we need humans to help fill those voids, to distill into something that machine learning models can use. And that work is never done. Not when we have so many different languages, even with those that within those languages, localized ways of saying, asking, or understanding. AI offers brands so much value, but it cannot add that value alone, and it will always need humans to work with and alongside it. So the last point, being brave. Well, what do I mean by that, being brave? We would be amazed at how many brands I've spoken with over the years that dream small. I understand that change is always uncomfortable, and true transformation takes bravery. It takes challenging the norm, and even challenging your own businesses and the key stakeholders within your businesses to think a little bit differently. I'll give you a few examples in a second of some brands that have dreamt big and the results of dreaming big. Those that were brave and as a result have elevated themselves above their competitors and delivered great experiences for their customers and huge returns for their businesses. But first, let's just take a quick look at why you need to be brave. So this slide tells the perfect story. It's got some great stats, and it shows you that customers expect, well, actually, customers demand great customer experiences and great customer service. And guess what? As it says there, if you deliver that, they will stay, they will spend, they will deliver, they will build even that deeper relationship with your brand. And customers are expecting more. We're never going to keep up with their expectations if we're still thinking small. Hopefully this might help you to start thinking otherwise. Your customers are expecting a seamless and unified customer experience, whether that's in-store, online, in Facebook, or speaking with a bot or a human. So this is where you need to be brave. This is where you need to have those conversations around adding new channels, around rolling out new data-rich experiences. And this is exactly what I mean when I say be brave. So what happens if you do take that leap of faith? So I've picked out two brands to showcase for you today, and they tell a great story. And actually, just listening to Rami earlier, where he was talking about Ray, building up that identity with the bot that has been launched, there's a lot of parallels with what I'll now discuss around Burberry. So I love talking around Burberry. The reason why, I've had so many conversations with brands that are high-end, selling luxury items, whether that's fashion or other spaces, and having conversations around bringing that brand into the messaging space with either bots, using channels like WhatsApp, etc. And often I'm met with a lot of skepticism around, does that brand, does that high-end item belong in this space? Well, the team over at Burberry were also extremely skeptical and took a lot of winning over. But almost 500,000 messages sent later by Lola, who you can see in action on the screen now, in the past year later, they've seen CSAT scores rocket up since deployment. Burberry have confirmed to me that Lola helps to drive experience, efficiency, and revenue, and they absolutely love her. And as you can see, the example of Lola in action on WhatsApp on the screen now, and I love how they thought about the persona. So they named her after one of their iconic bags. They wanted to develop that deep connection between the brand and the consumer. But let's take this back to our free tenants today. So they were available both on channels, WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat, but in terms of a global rollout, supporting their customers across the world, across multiple languages. They knew that technology alone would not power Lola to be where she needs to be. They needed people to look, help train her, continue to improve her, make her more efficient. They also knew that whilst Lola is clever and can help with a number of intents, they trained her to be clever enough to route her through to those customers who needed that human touch, that needed to discuss items with personal shoppers or style advisors. But most importantly, Burberry were brave. They were the first to bring luxury items into the channels that live within our pockets. And as you can see on the screen, those phenomenal results speak for themselves. So the final story that I wanted to share with you today is around the high-end shoe brand Tomorrow Melon. So again, Tomorrow Melon, they were brave. They understood that shopping had changed. They understood that the experiences people were having has changed. And they wanted to be able to bridge that gap between in-store and digital experiences. So how did they do that? Well, the first thing they did, they launched the Tomorrow Melon mobile closet. This allowed shoppers to interact with products in an in-person environment whilst receiving ongoing digital support via messaging. This kick-started an immersive shopping experience where customers in their stores, in their outlets, can scan QR codes that are strategically placed around the item. And that enabled that shopper to not only see the product in their hands, but to be able to interact with a Tomorrow Melon bot or a human agent via another channel, Apple Business Chat. And then should that person not have made the purchase, guess what? They had that digital experience there on the phone where they could continue to explore that product. So if they needed a little bit of time to think about it, wanted to go elsewhere and double check if they, saw anything else they liked, they had that product there on a channel that they know and love where they could continue to explore after they left the store, and then even complete, because Apple Business Chat linked in with channels like Apple Pay, making those experiences more seamless. They made themselves available in messaging in the place where they were trying to drive footfall in the store, which is pretty unique. They knew the limitations of the bot being able to handle all the conversations, so they made sure humans worked alongside. And finally, in being brave, they were the first to launch this new type of experience. And with messaging now making up over 11% of all sales, I think we can all agree it's certainly paid off. So these are just two of many stories I've seen where brands have been brave enough to do the new thing, brave enough to do the hard thing. Being brave is all about taking your stakeholders on a journey. It's about being the first, or if you're not the first in your region or industry to do that, it's about being better. So what does being brave mean to you? I look forward to reading and hearing some of your stories very soon, and hopefully this has helped to inspire you to be brave. But that's all for me today. Thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to interacting in the Q&A session later.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Adam, very much. That's very insightful. And I can really relate to some of the things that you talked about, especially around the bravery. I think in COVID, we were not really brave. We were forced to really transform our business. And I believe that bravery is required today. And I'll give you, before we move on to the next speaker, I just want to give you an example. I was approached to assess a contact center to determine whether they are transforming or implementing AI. And I told them I don't really need to visit your contact center to be able to tell, nor do I need to look at the website. I think the answer was, I wanted to see an organizational structure of the contact center. And there are positions, and as Adam mentioned, there are positions today that should be in a contact center organizational structure that I don't see in much of this region. And these are the conversational designers, the conversation builder, the bot tuner, the bot supervisor, the bot managers, the transcript analyzer, the data analyst. And to be honest, these are part of what a contact center organizational structure should look like today. And we have best practice in terms of how to build your contact center with AI. And that really involves how do you develop your people and skill set. And just to give you an example, a conversational designer, while it sounds very sophisticated, could be an agent that has interacted daily with customers, knows best in terms of potentially how the flow of the conversation should be. And this is where it's becoming more and more important to understand what those positions are. How do you become brave in transforming your organizational structure to build one that is really ready for AI? And we'll get the next to hear about some of the real interesting stats, and I'll pass it on to Sam.
Well, thanks, Rami. Thanks, Adam. That's actually a good segue towards what I'm about to present. So two folds actually in humanizing technology. First, how to balance between the actual ingredient of human versus technology. So how much technology introduced to your operation of CX. And the second fold is when you introduce technology, how human feel does it have? So if we move to some stats, I usually like to start with a few stats to show how we think on both ends of the bar, companies and customers as well. So with omnichannel technology, as you can see, the first stat, customer engagement is much higher vis-a-vis companies without strong omnichannel strategy in place. As you can see, 33% of companies with weak omnichannel versus the strong ones, 89%, they would definitely prefer to have omnichannel. If you look at the second stat, 90% of consumers said they have poor experience seeking customer support on mobile. Believe it or not, today, 6.4 billion mobile subscription exist out of 7.8 billion total Earth population. So, I mean, mobile is no brainer. You have to have mobile support, of course. Another thing about our stats today is engaging with customers. So the more the channels of engagement, the more revenue generated per person. And that's a given. So you would probably generate 40% more revenue the more you engage, or the more channels you're actually deploying to engage with your customers. And the last stat, as we can see, 72% of the customers expect response to their complaint on social media only within 1 hour. And that kind of emphasizes the importance of the social media and how it's actually growing very big in these days. And this is very interesting because it kind of like these three stats by three different sources kind of like put us into a kind of rethinking mode as far as technology goes and how far we should go with technology, pretty much. So the first one, it lays out the foundation of how important customer service is. I mean, 60% of organizations see that customer service would be the top source of competitive differentiation in the next 3 years. So this means The more you spend on customer service, the better your company actually will be, the more successful it will be. And then the second on the right, it says that it reaffirms the suggestion that more and more investments are directed to innovations and customer experience. And this means more technology. So innovation and technology hand in hand, the more you apply that, that's good, because 50% of the customers or companies, they intend to increase their investment in that area. And then suddenly it hits you at the very bottom that almost 60% find that emotion detection technology is creepy. So, I mean, you know how the algorithms work, expecting or anticipating your next purchase, and 58% of the people find this creepy. And I'm sure this will actually will change by time, but it's just interesting stat to show how people feel about technology in general. So in all simplicity, what is the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm trying to make is some companies take something like bots, digital tools in general, and put this in a bold comparison with their traditional contact center. It doesn't work in linear terms. The comparison is obvious, of course. If you look at the left hand, these are actually typical call center or traditional call center, or actually it's prone to inconsistency, maybe high time to market by the time you recruit, get people. Lack of flexibility is one of the things that you will face with human rather than machines, of course. And if you compare this to the right hand side comparison, less people, more bots, more technology. So people look at it more in a linear terms, that if you compare traditional to digital, digital is better, in all terms. Not necessarily. That's what we're trying to do. The balance is what really matters when you apply technology. So let's go, this slide, I mean, kind of show a little bit of how to balance automation and the human touch for superior CX. So how we do that, this is the left circle, and then what factors we need to take into consideration, this is the right circle. So the left circle, the first thing we advise is go hybrid. So technology can immediately solve many customer service problems. This is true. With their help, certain processes can be automated, resulting in reduced wait times for customers, and it pretty much makes things lighter for agents, allowing them to focus on more value-adding activities. So hybrid is the way to go. Control by human. When we say control by human or human control, it means that no methods of like what we call set and forget you should apply here. So during the initial training of AI, humans need to employ their skills in selecting the correct training data, as well as leveraging the relevant experience in the sector-specific and customer dialogue best practice. So the work of AI must be checked regularly to make sure errors can be corrected and optimizations can take place. Usually it's up to humans and only humans to do this work. That's why we say always have human control. Analyze. So analyze always start by defining the benefits that the new technology will bring your customers and your company. So clarifying the points of the customer's journey when automated dialogue with your customers is necessary and appropriate. Those points at which it is not, because some of the points along the map of the CX journey, maybe you don't need automation at all, you just need human. So analyzing your customers and users, which channels do they use for which purpose? How do they proceed in the relevant channel is extremely important. That's why we say analyze. And next slide, I'm gonna show you how we actually analyze for retail, since this is what we're talking about today, how we do the CX journey and how we analyze this part whenever we have customers asking our help in their CX. The last point of how to balance automation with human is up your game. So with tools answering easy questions and taking care of mundane inquiries. Companies need to become more proactive in defining and developing skills requirements to make sure that they're hiring the best people for the job, because definitely they're going to be taking care of much more complex transactions, since the mundane ones have been taken care of with automation. Now, if you move to the right circle, and this is pretty much discusses what factors apply when we balance human and automation. The nature. So some processes within the journey of some businesses are in much need of human contact due to the empathy that a human can share with a customer. Empathy is key. And some stops within the CX journey, you definitely need a human to show that empathy more than a machine. Value added, almost always the value should be simplicity, convenience, and easy resolution. Those are what we go after for our clients. So bells and whistles are not really a factor here. If you just achieve simplicity, convenience, and easy resolution, this is what you go after. So you need to focus on that value to achieve. Also, we should never overlook employees. So one rule that we need to always remember, all tools need to support effective human interaction to be meaningful, and that will certainly have a positive return. And then we move to personalization. Personalization is a very important factor as well in humanizing technology. The desire to shop online or use a chatbot for support doesn't mean that consumers want a sterile experience. What's more, slapping a name on a chatbot does not make it personalized enough. The key to effective automation is to harness machines for what they do best. Process data, deliver information about a product, or answer basic questions, and then make a seamless handoff to a human. If and when it's necessary, of course, So it's vital to think through the customer journey and put the right processes and workflow in place. And the last point in this is the cultural aspect. So Amazon could afford making it so difficult to reach a human due to their digital funneling. Yet not all companies will succeed by following the same model. That's for sure. Even Amazon in different countries, they don't apply the same digital funnel. Neither the served consumers demographics accept 100% machine-driven transaction without the human connection. It pretty much depends on the market that you're serving and how much they accept the going fully digital, if you will. So this is a typical CX journey for retail. This is the homework that we do usually for every company we serve. So at the beginning, we map phases of the journey. And we see where technology/human interaction per phase will actually be like, and what is the type of technology needed, as well as the skill set of the human interacting in that every phase that you can see on the slide. So from the very start at the left hand of the creating awareness, through online campaigns and moving to capturing interest across different channels during the knowledge phase, moving forward to the consideration phase where consumers' preferences are captured online, moving to the actual purchase transaction and all what it entails from analytics that can be used later to suggest sell and cross-sell. Then the post-purchase phase, loyalty and advocacy phases. Those contain high involvement to make sense of the collected data all along the road, all along the phases, the past phases. And we do actioning on all this data to increase loyalty and make sure we turn your consumers into brand advocates. And moving from that analysis, I'm gonna probably conclude with 3 different stats that I still also find interesting. And those were done by Ryan Advisory Survey. This is for the year 2022. And this survey actually was conducted by interviewing 668 decision makers in the customer service space. Slides show how the channel usage preferences has changed. Chatbots climbed to be the 6th rank with almost 160% increase in the past 5 years. And if you look at virtual assistants as well, is gaining good traction down there. So it's actually with 25% increases. Those are the channel usage cross market. And cross market, the market that actually were surveyed are the North America market, are the European market, and the Asian market. So that kind of like give you an idea about how those channels are being actually are gaining preference more and more. And this shows the growth actually in different channels as well. And then virtual assistants, you see that are foreseen to grow even further at chatbots and virtual assistants. So the great part was actually the increase sharply part. And you can see they are actually ranked at the very top, those both channels. And last but not least, this tag shows the answer to the investment priorities question. And again, automation and AI, for instance, are scoring higher than 5 at par with some other strategic initiatives and decisions. So if companies now are deciding and moving along with investing more and more in these tools, it just gives you a very good indication of where the market actually is going. So with this, I conclude my part. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Very insightful data. And I think also just to continue on that, I think the KPIs, when we talk about digital transformation and the KPIs contained in the contact center as we move to automation, I think I saw some very interesting new KPIs that are being monitored. We see things such as containment. To what extent has a conversation been contained within a chatbot without being escalated? Of course, CSAT remains to be an important metric. Even with automation, we can still trigger a customer satisfaction survey. How was your experience with our bot today? And then also the idea of converting contact centers from our historical support function that we provide to what's called a revenue generating or a profit center. And I think one of the stats I've seen on conversations happening on digital is a KPI that is called the revenue per conversation. And I think that's very interesting to see these new KPIs. And I believe these are important KPIs that contact centers and brands should start looking into. And I think going into our next speaker, we're looking at luxury brands, and you know, I'm very curious to know how and does luxury brands, maybe through Adam looking at Burberry, he answered part of my questions in terms of, yes, luxury brands can implement AI. I'm curious to see also how Chalhoub views that in this part of the region as well. And I'll pass it on to Bernadette.
Thank you, Rami, and good afternoon, everyone. So it's really very interesting topic that we're talking about, and I'm gonna start by talking about digitalization, automation, technology, all this hype that the globe is going to today. For us in Chalhoub Group, it is under one sentence: the customer is the hero of any story we have. For example, for me, I'm a very fundamental believer that nothing is basic more than the basic when it comes to delivering a great customer experience. And let me talk a little bit about our consumers today, specifically after all this, the COVID, the pandemic, and how the behavior is changing. And of course, speaking about how we can actually all the time keep the luxury experience at the highest standards. Today, I'm sure that all of you guys agree with me that our consumers are very smart, and as well, they are very diverse. They could be baby boomers, they could be Generation Y, Generation Z. I don't know which alphabet that we'll put later on for them. And they are very, as I said, they are very diverse. They could be my neighbor, they could be someone sitting in a coffee shop, could be a student exploring life. That's the diversity. But what's very important is to know that our consumers are very smart. They know more than us. They follow, they have their reviews, they innovate trend. In a grosso modo, they know more than us. And this is very important for us to know that consumers, we cannot outsmart them. They innovate for us. And in some instance today in the new behavior, we see how they can come up with solution maybe better than ours. They shop physically. There is a certain behavior for them, and then they shop online. They have a different behavior. So for me, I call them phygital shoppers. There is no way to just say, okay, I will serve him in this way, or I'll serve him in this manner. You have to be able, as if you want to lead the luxury experience, you have to be able to actually consider all aspects of the consumers through the 360 degree on where they go and do whatever they want, the way they want, whatever, and be available for them 24/7. Now, for us in Chalhoub Group, our mission in the customer care department revolves about passion, delivering the best experience with passion, can-do, speed, proactive. But all of this is as well on the other side, empowered and supported by the latest technology in the world. And I always use the word of balancing between of them. And I know my colleague in the panels that as well mention it a lot. It's very important to balance between the technology that we put and the human touch. So for us, what we do in Chalhoub, we really capitalize a lot in the emotional intelligence of our consultant. So yes, the AI is there. Yes, the information that you put behind this AI, the accuracy, the speed is there. But at the same time, we want to be available to our customers to deliver this human touch, because no matter how much the technology, and I saw it in the slides with my colleague as well, that yes, the technology is there, but it can never be replaced. We can never replace the human touch that we want to offer to consumers. For instance, for us in the customer care department, our consultants are, one of the things that actually we applied is a little bit different than the traditional contact center, is removing the layers for the advisors. And we call them consultant and advisors, we don't call them agent. Why they are consultant, and I'll talk to you about some of the programs that we launched last year, is we want them to be empowered to serve the customers. So they don't have layers. Today, all of them, when you and I invite all of you to shop on any of our brands, being Level Shoes, Faces, or Swarovski, Lacoste, any of the brands, and contact our customer service, and you will see how they are empowered to make decisions on the spot, only to serve you. They break the norms, they are empowered, they can do all of these things. This is part of how we really emphasize on and capitalize on the human touch and the emotional intelligence of our consultant. But this does not mean that we don't have the latest technology as well in-house. So this is where we are really trying to balance between all of that. Today, if we look into us as a Chalhoub Group, we have a building full of geniuses, of tech gurus. We are a very tech-savvy companies, and definitely any technology we want to implement is always based on the consumer needs. And we never remove the finger from the pulse. And when I say the pulse, it's always about the consumer. The consumer is the pulse. He is the one who decides on what technology we want to put. And any technology that we want to implement in the customer care department is it going to be better for our consumer? Are they going to like it? Are they going to find the experience simpler, nicer? They will enjoy it. And one of the things as well that that I always used to hear, and maybe some of you in the industry keep on saying, they associate the costs and the efficiency, cost reduction, what else terminologies, productivity, all of these terminology, they associate it to a digital transformation. So they are the main driver to, if we want to reduce cost, I need to have a digital transfer, I need to have a chatbot. For us at Chalhoub, no, this is not the case, and it's gonna never be the case. So technology doesn't remove a human being, and it's nothing to have with cost. So for instance, a year and a half ago, we launched a program called Retain and Grow. And you might, all of you ask, what is retain and grow? How come I get customer service? And this is where we say, who said that customer care is a cost center? It's never a cost center. And this is where the whole retain and grow program came on, where we implemented that, as I mentioned, 1.5 years ago. This program consists on 2 pillars. One is related to concierge service, to the luxury service and concierge service, and the other one is the sales recovery. I'm going to talk you a little bit about them. So the concierge service consists about all the intelligence and the knowledge that we have from the systems, the tools that we have, the AI, and as well empowered by the empathy and the emotional intelligence of the consultant. So you as a customer, when you're shopping online, you could need some support to purchase a product. And from there, the consultant will be able to start building a relationship with you. Slowly, you could purchase the order with the agent. And once you put the purchase the order, the advisor is going to be following up on all the post-purchase for you. So this is a very, very luxurious service. When I say following up, there is a lot of personalization, a lot of from a delivery to payment method to we go all over the board to do things for customers in this specific pillar of the retain and grow. The second part is the sales recovery. Now, we all know that in the retail industry, we always have something that could go wrong, such as let's say item is not available anymore, or is out of stock, or it's the last piece, or it is something that could go wrong with the product. So rather than the traditional customer care department would just literally cancel the order, or the technology would just cancel the order. For us, we don't do that. Actually, our advisors and consultants, they are empowered by certain AI where we are able to find alternative very similar to what the customer was purchasing at the first place. And this is where they put the human touch on top of this intelligence and able to transform these kind of lost sales into a new sale. And in most of the time, these sales are actually higher than the first purchase power. So this is the retain and grow that we launched 1.5 years. And again, when I speak to cost center, when we started at the beginning of the first year, it used to be it's 0.8 times of our yearly cost. And this year, I'm really proud to say we are at 1.5 times in the first quarter of the year. So which means we already covered our cost. And this is where my answer to everybody who believe that a customer care department is a cost center. So I say no, it's never a it's never a cost center. It's always a revenue generating center, as long as you have the technology supporting you or enabling you with the human touch. So it's all about balancing. And grosso, I will end by saying that it's all about balancing between the human touch that we have behind and the technology that you have. So of course, we cannot ever eliminate all the technology. We always want to be ahead of the curve, but also the human touch, the people that we have are the main driver of all of this transformation in the customer care industry. So I will end it here. I'm of course with you until the end, and please feel free to ask any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Bernadette, very insightful. And I think we will be moving to a Q&A. And with that, we ask for those that have any questions to any of the panelists, please share those questions with you. We have received some. And I do also have some questions that I would like to engage some of our panels with. Perhaps I'll start with answering one of the questions that was raised, which is, which verticals do we see AI most applicable to? And I think it's a very good question. From experience and from our implementations across our organization, I think retail and e-commerce certainly rank very high in terms of the implementation of automation and AI, simply because of the fact that there is a very clear process. The customer journey is an important aspect of analyzing whether there is an opportunity for automation. However, I do have to say that other verticals really rely on how you build your strategy and how do you analyze your customer journey to be able to find those opportunities for automation and AI. I think from the part of the Middle East region, we see certain limitations within banking and insurance that relate to, for example, compliance and security perspective, where we believe there will be more time required around implementing AI and automation for those two industries, as well as potentially government. And that really relates in terms of how do we ensure data privacy, data sovereignty. When you talk about channels, for example, like WhatsApp, where some of that data is stored externally outside the country, we typically see a lot of concerns from CIOs and IT professionals and security that we still need to analyze and understand better. How do we build that customer journey and find those automation opportunities while not jeopardizing any aspect of security and data? That does not mean other industries don't care about that, but that there is that extra layer of data issues that have to be dealt with when you are transacting with confidential information. And we see that in some countries like UAE and Saudi Arabia, where there is more time required to be able to adapt some of these innovations that we talked about today. I want to move to a question maybe for Adam and LivePerson. I believe recently there was an acquisition of a voice technology within LivePerson. It was very interesting to see while we talk about digital and messaging that voice is still relevant and voice is still important. Within the acquisition of VoiceBase, I believe, and how do you think that will play an overall strategy around AI and innovation when voice is still important, even for technology providers such as LivePerson that have realized the importance of voice within the journey of this automation and AI?
Yes, a great question there, Rami. Thanks for posing that one to me. So when it comes to voice, it's interesting because we've always set out on a journey to almost overtake voice, and our CEO even mentioned at a few events a couple of years back around trying to kill voice. But we know that we can never kill voice. Voice as a channel is still extremely important for brands. It's still the number one route in for most conversations. So we have to think smarter around how we can work alongside it, how we can coexist, and how we can work with brands to ensure that for the conversations that don't need to happen on voice, let's move them into messaging. Let's make it easier for your customers to be able to interact, and whether that's self-service or ask simple questions to human agents over messaging, that's the place for them to do that. And in doing so, freeing up the opportunities for your, those contact centers, those places where voice is heavy. So it's not a poor experience for people who do need to have those. And our acquisitions have been all around trying to provide more data, more rich information that can do those analytics on why people are calling in, what the reasons, how those conversations going. And it mirrors what we're doing already in the messaging space. So being able to go to brands and just give them full 360 insights across channel. And there will be a play as we move into the voice arena a little bit later on the line. But hopefully that's helped bring that to life a little bit for you, Rami.
Thank you. Bernadette, I'd like to ask, so in the basic e-commerce world where most people we see interacting on different channels, the first question that comes to mind is, where is my order? And with that question in mind, to what extent today does Chalhoub react to such a questions via automation, by immediately finding the tracking information, sharing it, maybe even sharing it proactively before even the customer asks? Where do you believe that you are in that journey of, taking these normal, frequently asked questions and simply trying to adapt technology to answer them?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a really good question. We have the technology in place and it is enabled for some of the brands, not all of them. Of course, we have, you know, in Chello Group, we have so many brands. So some brands could be enabling certain technology before the others. But how do you say, something new for us that we discovered during COVID and after COVID now, that consumers still want, they would have the answer, they would have transparency, where is the order, but they still want to connect with an agent. So again, as I mentioned, in a percentage, I don't have exactly the number with me now, but it is there. There is a transparency, there is automation as well for this specific point, but we still see that the customers still want to connect. And in some instance, the question is to track the order, but in reality, the customer wants something else, and maybe he wants a new product, or we want to cross-sell, or he wants to ask on something else, not related only to tracking order. So again, I strongly believe that the technology and AI should be there, but we never should eliminate the human touch and the people behind, because those are going to make the difference. And in every simple question or query that comes from a customer, there is always an opportunity. And if we want to be differentiating, and I saw these terminologies and words on the slides, if we want to differentiate ourselves, this is, again, yes, customer care is the main pillar in companies that is going to differentiate that, but not by saying, yes, I want to be automated 100%, or by saying, oh, I want to still be the traditional contact center 100%. We need to be able to balance it in both here and there, and people are the key. That's my advice for everyone. People are key. People are the people behind, because as much as you really, the AI will help you to minimize these contacts. And again, as you said, the simple questions, where is the store located? All of these can be answered, but still you will have a percentage of consumer that they need this human interaction, and you can make you can, as a consultant, you can make them feel good. And that's the vision that we're going through in Shell Group.
Great. Thank you, Rindat. Sam, may I ask you, so in 15, 20 years, I'm going to be asked this straight out. Do you think really we can have full automation? There are some brands, there are some technology companies, there are even some stats out there that really, at least maybe in the West, they say there will be full automation, there will be human replacement. And do we need to, consider that for our part of the world? Do we consider that to be a statement that we need to be worried about and really adapt to see how our future would look like?
Well, Rami, in 15, 20 years, yeah, that's a long insight. But let me give you my 2 cents. No, I don't think that automation will ever take over. I think people will remain, and with different percentages. That's for sure. I mean, I gave Amazon as an example. If you look back, Amazon, the way they started, it was fully humanized until very recently, and now it's fully digital. I mean, in order for you to get here in the US, for instance, if you trying to get hold or contact with a human, it's pretty difficult. I mean, it's a journey in itself. So, I mean, but still, I mean, Amazon is different, and they never still give up the person. I mean, humans are there. It's hard to get to them through the digital funneling, but still there. So human will remain, that's for sure.
Great, thanks.
Adam,
another question. You guys have worked with many brands, and I believe you have a wealth of data behind the engagements that are happening on your platform. What insights? And I wanted to specifically ask about, there are new enhancements, for example, in some channels like WhatsApp, in terms of turning it into buttons. We've seen enhancements in what's called proactive notification. And, perhaps, the channels that we talk about and the role of these channel owners, whether it's Facebook or others, what is their role in terms of enhancing that customer experience as well? Because at the end of the day, we're limiting to those channels, correct? And I believe now that they also allowed for brands to do marketing via proactive messaging as well. Perhaps they are part of that journey, and they may be the ones slowing us down. So how do you utilize all the data that you have to understand where do we stand today?
Yeah, so again, some good points raised there. I mean, in terms of the channels, you know, we're very happy to be, you know, global partners with the likes of Apple, with Meta, with Google, and as a result of having that global partnership, you know, we're bringing ideas to the table with them. And as you rightly pointed out there, it's only recently that WhatsApp have actually allowed the use cases of doing those promotional retail items in a proactive sense, whereas historically it was always down that reactive. So forging those relationships, you know, being able to work alongside them and help provide insight from our own data, from our own use cases, and seeing where brands are wanting to do, the types of use cases, the types of intents that they're now looking to service. We can go to these providers and try and help shape the future and start bringing them in line. And it has been really, really positive to see WhatsApp in particular, then moving forward with some of the use cases, but also changing the functionality, as you put, like with the newer buttons, with that more richer functionality that consumers are used to seeing when they're just using that channel communicating with their peers. And then as it goes to the data, you know, we have a wealth of data that come from those messaging interactions that we can help brands better improve and better understand not only their customers, but what they're asking, how they're asking, and how things like their chatbots are performing. You know, we've implemented a tool recently called Max that is pretty unique in where it analyzes data of those interactions with the chatbots to start seeing where people are, you know, getting frustrated, getting stuck in a loop, and for those flows that haven't been designed to their optimum level, being able to provide in real time those answers and be able to, for those bot designers that you talked around earlier and those conversational designers, to go in and fine tune and make those experiences a lot better. So, you know, data is there to be used, and yeah, it's great to see it being used in the right ways.
Thanks. I think we have a question for maybe Bernadette. The question from one of our attendees is about how do we get a single view of a customer that is offline and online? And I think that's one of the challenges many of the retailers are facing now. Do you have any insights how we can do that?
Yes, of course. I don't want to seem that I'm doing marketing for anyone, but I think you need to use really the best technology in terms of your tools. So for example, for us, we use Salesforce, our service cloud, in our, like, for consumers to be purchasing offline and online, which means when you are in the customer care department today, my consultant, they are able to see your purchase. Let's say you're shopping in Level shoes. We're able to see your purchase when you purchase offline. We are able to see all your interactions, any communication emails that goes out to you, we're able to see it. And we're able as well to see, very soon, we're going to be able to see the whole return rate, return chunk, and all of these information. So of course, when you bring in the Service Cloud, and again, I'm only speaking about Service Cloud, not because it's my favorite tool, but as well, it's really a very, very good tool. I'm not doing any marketing here. You can start, like, this is a big elephant. You can start slicing it and start, first of all, by having the right data and collecting the right data from your contact center for customers. And when I say the right data, is at least the email and phone number that I need to be accurate. And then from there, you start building on the transactions, and then the marketing cloud, the commerce cloud, and then you bring them all together in one place. That's what we do in Chegub. That's the reason why we have this visibility from like we call it the 360-degree view of the customers for online and offline.
Great. And just a follow-up question on that, Bernadette, is social media handled by customer care, and how do you separate marketing versus customer care in terms of engagement on social media?
Yeah, correct. So today, and I think one of my colleagues in the panel mentioned the social care as well. Like there is really huge, I would say, increase in the contacts through social care, we call it in our department, as well. Like you need to have, like now in terms of if we speak, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but if not, please re-ask me. So if we speak about Salesforce, it should be your basic tool, and then you have a connector to Salesforce. So today for social care, you have so many connectors. As of now, we are actually, I have my team working on connecting through a, what we call it, amplifier. This is a tool that we might be using. And you will have, again, all this data will come into, when you integrate to your service cloud, you will have this data from your, so even like if you contact me today, you are in June, you contact me, and you contact me again later in October, I would know how did we connect with you? I would know what is your, how did you score me? How did you score my colleague who was speaking to you? What did you like when you are called back because you're a detractor or you are a promoter? When we called you back, what did you like? What are your preferences? So all of these, you could see them in your screen funnel, whatever we call it. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. I believe basically the answer is the inbox of the care team will handle any channel. And what we are doing is connecting those channels coming from different sources to one centralized view for the agent, and he can handle that. Since he is the most experienced with understanding how to handle issues, it should be no different for social media inquiries that are coming in to be handled as well.
Correct. And if you look at it from a business perspective, what is very important is to know the voice of the customer at the end of the day. So yes, we do focus on all the experience that we deliver to our customers. But again, what happens at the end of the day, we have all these data in one centralized place that is going again to our data warehouse team, where everybody can see what's exactly happening in customer care, even though if we are handling so many brands. So the voice of the customer is as well collected through these platforms.
Great. Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
And I think with that, just in terms of our closing remarks, hearing on everyone, I think it's been very interesting to hear from everyone where we are today, looking at the stats. And I think the message is very clear. Our message is we need to have an approached methodology where we move from channels to digital transformation. I think we've done that successfully with many brands. We've used tools such as IVR deflection, where we actually were able to attract people to other channels to engage with us. Once we collected data on digital and we're able to transact on messaging channels, this is where AI becomes interesting. We're able to take the transcripts, we were able to analyze that. We built our data analyst team, we built our conversation builders, we have our tech developers who were able to help us build our initial bots and conversational AI strategy to actually engage with customers and provide that aspect of automation and bots. But I think it's been also very important for us is how the automation aspect has also helped us in terms of reducing specific KPIs, such as the average handling time for an agent to handle inquiries by assisting. And we call these, one of the key metrics we use is called the next best action. So we try to have the agent in not to have to think about what he should do next, but rather tell him what to do next. And by that, I believe that intent plays a very important role. Understanding the customer intent, whether we have a very strongly built knowledge base that will be able to capture trigger keywords and providing the agent with the solution, therefore helping us to reduce the handling time. That is also value of AI, and really in terms of reducing our costs and helping us build that profitability for the brands. We've taken brands that were initially running at 90% voice 2 years ago. Today, they're at 10% digital. Today, they're running on the complete opposite, where 10% of transactions are in voice and 90% on digital. And I think it's right to Adam's point. It's about that bravery that some of those brands are taking, and they're seeing that the results are actually quite remarkable. We've been able to help optimize operations, improve customer experience, And as long as we're keeping track of those KPIs that help us continuously affirm and confirm that we are on the right track to, utilizing technology in the right way without jeopardizing any of those KPIs, such as the satisfaction, the NPS, the customer experience, then I think we are on the right track. Any last words, Sam?
No, Rami, I mean, I think you summed it up very well. So thank you so much. Yeah.
I'd like to thank all the attendees. I'd like to thank our participants today in this great webinar. We look forward to having more in the future. And again, I thank all those who have attended, and we will be making this available offline for those who require it. Also, we have a nice surprise for those that attended with us today. We are going to be offering our live person platform available for a free trial for those that want to take that brave next step in trying to build some of the automation and even play around with some of those automations which we have pre-built in live person. All you have to do is scan this QR code, fill in the information, and we would be happy to get your free live person domain set up and getting some of our consultants working with you to see how can we help build your new conversational AI strategy and implement it with live person. I'll keep that available here. And again, thank you everyone for attending, and we look forward to having you in our next webinar.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.